All right, welcome to another episode of Comic Book Squares. We just want to remind everybody about our big contest for 2023. We're going to help find a new writer in comic books. We're partnered with Dream Foundry on this, and just remember the deadline is the end of September to get your stories in. So to kick the show off, my name's Shane.
I'm Paul.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Mike. Let's get this show started.
All right, well, welcome to another episode of Comic Book Squares. This is going to be a fun one. We've got a really cool book to talk about. So, David, just tell us a little bit about it.
Death Drop Drag Assassin is the story of Death Drop, a retired assassin turned drag queen who is sort of forced to look for her missing drag sister as a rash of mysterious deaths and disappearances sweeps across the city's streets. And as she delves deeper into the mystery, she finds the specter of her assassin mentor haunting her every step.
Very cool. Yeah, it's a super cool book. I love the whole concept of it. Yeah, Alex, you have anything you want to add into that?
Me? Oh gosh, put me on the spot now. On a podcast, who would have thought? I think the elevator pitch pretty much covered it. I don't know. Is there something in particular, or
well, what was okay? So David, did David come to you with the script? How did you guys get connected with the script?
Right? Yeah. So I think this is a project. I think this is like David's sort of longest standing project. So I think it's been through a few sort of like iterations, but I think initially for the original pitch, the artist who was attached to that was Len. I can never remember their last name.
Len Gogu.
Len Gogu. And I think they just, as they were about to sign on the contract for this, like about 2 other books came in. So there was sort of the gimmick and is it like a musical medieval thing?
Quest Aside.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, which both look fantastic, but I think that kind of happened like just as this was happening, so unfortunately they had to like drop out. And I think David just emailed me out the blue on this one.
I think I found you on Twitter. I want to say
probably. I spend too much time on Twitter.
it was either Twitter or your website, one of those two. But yeah.
I think
it might have even been from that cover that you did for
Killer Queens.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I got to, because basically like David Booher just put out a call on Twitter for like, does anyone want to do a cover for this? And I was like, yes, please. And he was like, okay. Which it's really nice when the story goes like that. So yeah, David just emailed with the pitch for this, and it sounded fantastic. It was just like, and I had a look at sort of like Nottingham, and it was sort of like, oh, this is very cool and interesting, and I like the idea of taking noir and sort of like mixing up with drag, which is this sort of very camp, bright, fun performance thing, but sort of like, and then being filtered through this rather quite dark, gritty lens. I don't know. It just seemed like 2 great tastes that taste great together.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's like peanut butter and chocolate when they
yes.
That's right. No, that makes it's awesome because I know you guys gave us some preview copies, so I didn't share it out, but I was explaining this to some of my friends and a couple of friends who do drag, and they were like, "Oh my god, what do we have the book? How can I get my hands on this book?" So I was explaining to them about it because they just loved the concept so much. And I did too. I mean, I think Alex, you had sent the copy over to us, and we vet. Usually, we read and just make sure, because we want to bring stuff on where we keep stuff positive and all that. And I was reading through it, and I'm like, I emailed Shane, and I was like, okay, I know our schedule's full right now, but we got to get them on because this book is really, really fun. It's so cool. I love the whole concept of it. And between the story, which was nice and gritty, and it kept kind of this almost like a detective writing, like those old school, like noir, like as you mentioned, noir, like writing vibes. But then, the whole setting, like that first scene in issue 1, which I hope this isn't giving away, but where our star kind of kicks some ass in the alleyway. I won't say too much, but that's where I was hooked too. I was like, oh, this is going to be kind of badass. And then it just got even cooler from there. So really, really love the concept. I'm glad you guys brought it together. You had mentioned your cover from Killer Queens, Alex. That might have been Dave. You said might have been what you saw first. Is that how Lucas? And I want to pronounce his last name correctly. How do you pronounce it? Gattoni?
Gattoni.
Gattoni. Is that how you got Lucas Gattoni on too?
No, I've been working with Lucas for a while, and I love working with him. I always say on these podcasts, he's like secretly one of the best letterers in the business, and I want it to stop being a secret. So I love working with Lucas, and every opportunity I get to work with him, I will. He's like one of my dearest friends in the industry as well. So this was a no-brainer for me, and he knocked it out of the park. Apologies for the sports metaphor, but
we hype on lettering a lot. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Shane.
Oh no. I just want to pull it back a second to the noir. I mean, immediately. I don't want to give anything away, but just this little subtle things like the flicking of the cigarette and just the stomping it out with the foot. Like you could just feel like it was like a noir kind of a feel, like almost immediately. And was that intentional? Is that what you were going for with this kind of this feel?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think like one of my biggest inspirations for this book is Jessica Jones. And so I was like really trying to get that kind of PI, almost PI vibe in there. And so there's just a lot of like vibes synthesized in there to make this kind of Frankenstein's monster of a thing that is Death Drop.
Alex, what was your because you have the I'm sure David explaining to you the noir look and feel. What were some inspirations for you from the art side of that?
I mean, obviously when you sort of like look at dragon stuff, it's all sort of like very often very big and sort of bombastic and theatrical. But I think for sort of like all the looks for the characters, I wanted to kind of like give it a bit of sort of like vintage throwback feel, just to sort of like harken back to sort of like traditional noir. But then bringing in sort of like, I don't know, like some of those sort of like, I don't know, make it very sort of like moody lighting and things like that. So, who's the guy who did Drive? I can never remember his name. Reese, but he's done like a sort of few films like playing around in that sort of like ballpark, and it's sort of like thinking about, I don't know, trying to bring that sort of element in. Although I say that and then I just whack all the hue saturation up to like 5,000 and there's like different colours going on. So, which seems to be what happens when I sit down to colour a page. It just starts getting a bit...
No, but I thought the use of colors was great because it all fits the mood. Like there's the a scene in the second issue where it's in the club and it's kind of a somber mood at first. The lights are down, and then you get into the performances later, and then it gets flashy and stuff. But I felt like I really liked the mood lighting that you set with the through each panel. It really definitely kept the. It's funny you talked about disparate parts of the noir and the drag scene and all that, but I feel like between your whole team, you guys really meshed it all together really well.
Yeah,
is that like a collaborative effort, like Lucas and all of the two of you coming in and?
Absolutely, and I think to a certain extent, like juxtaposing things that happen to work really well together is kind of a part of the core essence of this book, because you have the sort of really camp aesthetics, but the themes are super dark, and we're trying to kind of lull people into a false sense of security by saying, visually this is what you're getting, but then thematically you're getting something that's like completely in contrast, yet works so well with what's on the page that it's designed to surprise and thrill, and I hope it does.
For sure.
Yeah, very cool.
I know Shane. Yeah, you were talking about it too. You really enjoyed that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to ask, going back to Alex real quick, when you look at the script for this and you get it in and you're thinking to yourself, what's the style that I want to go with for this? Can you talk a little bit about your research and what you did, just to put together how the art's going to look? Or did you collaborate together on that? How did that come together?
I think David's been quite sort of like, I think there was one time where I was like, I'm going to do this. And David was like, no. but in general, it's also like when you're working with a writer for the first time, you're like, are they going to get really upset if I am like, I think this might be better if we stick in a little panel here, or there's these two things could be in one. There weren't any panel descriptions that were like, there are two people sitting on a sofa watching TV and we can see what is happening on the TV while they also like turn and look at each other, and then someone comes in the room from behind and it's just like, no. So there was absolutely none of that. I think we just sort of went for it because I don't know. I kind of felt it was very. There was some like sort of like character designs and stuff like that, but I don't know. It was like so easy to like visualize these people, and there was just a really strong sense of vibe from the script that it's sort of like, I don't know. It is sort of like I think maybe a sort of slightly heightened reality I've set it in. Perhaps, but
that's what I was going for. So
great, excellent, we nailed it. Synergy.
I think there were times when I also said I would send you a script and I'd be like, "R.I.P. your Google search history."
Oh yeah. There was a really fun week where it was just like my Instagram was like, why don't we solve your depression with Viagra? And it was just like, oh my god. But I saw some sites. Although it wasn't that, I don't know, it wasn't that shocking because my first, like literally one of my first freelance jobs was doing like banner artwork for this like bi-monthly warehouse party that was run by the Burning Man group of people. So, and you would go there and you would see some sites. My gosh. So it wasn't anything I hadn't seen before. I did actually accidentally end up at their very eyes wide shut New Year's Eve party one time in a mansion in the middle of nowhere, but that's a story for another day.
Why?
Why?
I suddenly need this autobio comic. Where is it? How do I give you money for it?
I'm like the most boring vanilla person, and I basically just hid in the green room where all the people who were taking too much ketamine were just like crashing out, waiting for my ride to come back from whatever fun time he was happening. But yeah. That was an interesting, and also like I literally just like sent out a massive cringy email about 2 days before being like, I'm quitting drinking. So I went into this thing like completely sober, and it was just like, oh my god, there's no, wow, we've gone, the rails, they've come off.
So did that start you drinking again?
No, I've been, I think, almost like 10 years sober. How old are these comics now?
That's awesome.
Very nice.
Man, I don't know. If I ended up at one of those, I'd probably be like, oh boy, yeah, bring it, bring it around over. That's fun.
Anyway,
yes, back to the book. So, go for it, Ben.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, all right. So, David, just as far as your coming up with this concept and putting this whole idea together, what kind of research did you have to do on your end as far as the writing side goes?
I mean,
what ads are you seeing now? Sorry.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
the same ones I was seeing before. I'm somewhat immersed in drag culture enough to get what I needed to get out of this. There was a few things that I had to Google, but you know,
Do you perform?
without revealing too much about my personal life, there were some things that I didn't, and we'll leave it to whoever listens to this and then reads issue 2 to figure that one out.
Personally, I learned a lot about bathhouses that I didn't know.
Well, I wanted to put it in the subtext, and you just really you just added it completely.
Oh, really? Oh, no! Oops. Well, guys, I don't do subtle, as you may have picked up.
Oh.
Oh, dear.
That's great. So this is an educational book as well, then?
Fun for all the fat. No.
Maybe.
He was too stunned to speak.
Oh my gosh. No, it was so fun, and I'm excited to share it with a lot of my friends, like I said, who are in the in the drag scene as well, because again, the concept blew them away. They were like, why don't we have comics like this, already? So they were pretty excited to see that, and to see a person who does drag, but or people who do drag, but not presented in the, I don't know, the showy way that often gets shown. It's like real humans, you get real. I mean, it shows the real people too, not just the show or whatever, which I was explaining to them as well. I really appreciate that about this book. It's awesome.
Thank you. Dialogue is my favorite thing to do, and people who watch a lot of reality TV shows featuring drag queens might not quite get that they're actually real people, and not just the character that they present. And I think that dichotomy is a really interesting one to explore, and we do a little bit of that. And it's a pretty fun and interesting experience to both write and, I hope, read.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, what can you tell us? So you sent us over the 3 issues. What can you tell us about what your plans are moving forward?
Well, we've got 5 issues coming out from Scout Comics, and we'll see how we go. I'd really love to do more if I could, but that A, depends on how well this one goes, and B, how how Alex's schedule works out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also their desire to be tortured by me, by my script.
I know, I love it. I love it.
One thing that we've been hearing from folks, especially in the creator-owned or indie comic scene, is this complete focus on miniseries, right? We'll establish, we'll have a beginning, middle, and end in 5-6 issues, and then we'll see how that goes, and then we can. So, do you feel like the whole industry is slowly moving away from continuing series?
Yeah, I mean, to me, absolutely. And there are some parts of that are really good. I think for consumers who are looking to read a one and done thing, those single trades are really just a fantastic thing for them. But I think that sometimes you lose a bit of depth that, I was telling Alex, I think on another show, that I initially conceived of this as a 6-issue miniseries, and I had to cut an issue. And I think that, this happens to be the right balance for this book, and because of the way Scout works, if I need to flex an extra couple of pages, as long as Alex is okay with it, I can do that.
Oh, David, there wasn't a question about it in issue 4. That was just
in fairness, it came with an apology. It was like, by the way, I've been struggling with this, and the answer was this. I hope you're okay with it.
Yes. No, I mean, whatever works best for the story, because I don't know. It's my God, if you've got the wiggle room, then, or if it needs to be 2 pages less, why wouldn't you do that? I mean, it's like you kind of do what's best for the narrative. So that's cool that there's the space to do that.
And I hope that there is a place for those ideas that are more expansive. Sometimes I wonder if the publishers are going to start greenlighting OGNs of that size, but not like single issue series because of the drop off. But also sometimes I'm like, this, I come up with an idea that's like, 8, 9, 10 issues long. And I'm like, this is so perfectly episodic that it kind of has to be a series. And then I take that idea and I throw it in the trash and start again.
Oh no.
But look, like at the end of the day, also necessity breeds invention, and you end up getting, more creative, smaller series, which I think is also a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Well, one thing I wanted to ask about is your advertising for this and how you're kind of pushing it out. What methods are you using to get the word out about this product? Are you using social media? Are you doing conventions? Tell me a little bit about that process.
I'm doing social media. I'm doing a couple of conventions here in Australia, and we also have the wonderful and talented Don't Hide PR on our side, whom I would recommend to any comic book creator who is looking to do publicity for their upcoming books, be they Kickstarters or through a publisher. Melissa is the best, and she does great rates for creators, and she's just a joy to work with. So,
and she does like
all
Kickstarter
of the
campaigns
above
as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we've we're on her email list now too, so we're chatting with her, and it's to all the creators who are watching or listening. I would recommend her too, because we get a ton of stuff from her, and that's how we sometimes find folks we want to talk to as well. So if you want some good PR, I'll back you up on that, David and Alex. Yeah, she's great.
She's literally. I approach these things with a bit of no small amount of apprehension. I'm not some sort of marketing or PR genius. I have zero knowledge, and I'm like, I just want to make books, and the best way to do that is to hire someone who can do all of those other things and who is very good at them, and that just happens to be Melissa.
Yeah. Go ahead, Shane.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, just from a selfish standpoint, the part of the reason why we started this show was to discover new and interesting art and help bring it to the forefront so people can know about it. And so I'm just, I loved it so much, and I just hope that people will seek it out. And so hopefully this gives you a little bit of a platform to help get it out there to the world. I think anytime you can bring interesting new art out there, the world's a better place.
I appreciate it. And I appreciate that, like, what the two of you do and what people like you do as well. I had a blast actually listening to your Know Your Station episode.
Oh yeah.
Not to like do the whole like cross promotion thing, but we have a wonderful Liana Kangas retailer incentive cover for Death Drop. They're also
awesome.
like one of the best people in comics. And yeah, I had a blast listening to that episode. So
Liana,
thanks so much. Appreciate that.
They're so funny. Both Liana and Sarah. They're both
Sarah too.
Very dark individuals. I need to pick up Know Your Station, but I'm kind of like, some bad things are going to happen to people, and they're going to enjoy doing that like immensely, putting those people through their paces.
Yeah. Like, if you listen to it, I loved what Sarah was like. They were like, oh yeah, I just thought, wouldn't it be great if wealthy people got murdered in space? when I asked them about the story idea, I thought it'd be great if wealthy people were brutally murdered. I was like, oh, it's so funny.
There you
No,
go.
they're hilarious.
Yeah,
But
that's good stuff.
sorry. I did have. Okay, so I want to jump way back, and we'll do. Question is for both of you. We'll start with Alex. For artwork, how did you get started into comics with comics art?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I remember like as a kid, I think my dad got me like hooked on Tintin books from like an early age, and I think I just really loved that form of storytelling, and it just seemed to like sync up with like how my brain works or something. And it's like I wouldn't read masses of drawing comics as a kid, but I'd like draw like stuff. I don't know, because it was just like, I've got all this shit in my head and I can like get it out and you can like tell a story on a piece of paper, and I was basically entertaining myself because I didn't have any friends. But yeah, so I don't know, it's always just something I kind of it was like what I really wanted to do, so it's always been sort of like something burning along in the background. And then I did a BA in illustration. And I think around that time, maybe that was like when I got on Twitter, and it's sort of like, oh, there's all these like writers out there. And you've got all these like people doing like small press anthologies and things like that. Which just seemed to be like a really good way of sort of doing like lots of small little things. So you're kind of like putting stuff out.
Yeah.
So it's like getting yourself seen, I guess, and just sort of like naturally networking on Twitter, where I have probably clocked in way too many hours. But I don't know, I just like it because it's sort of like you can see like people creators who you think are really cool having a conversation, you can sort of like chip in, and then you're like in their DMs and not like that. But yeah.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah. Oh no, this is like the spicy episode. Again, I am like the least spicy person, but I'm not making it sound like that. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. So it's just like there were a couple of writers who it would just be like pitch for anthologies together and things like that, and then it would be like you'd see editors putting out calls for art, so you just for sort of like covers and things like that. So I think that's probably how the Red Sonja thing, because I got to do a short for that. They're sort of they're black, white, and red like miniseries. And that was through just sort of like DMing Nate when he did one of those, because he's always like looking for people to do like covers and stuff like that. Yeah, and then I guess that's how I found David, and that's how we're here.
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah. So same question to you, David, for the writing.
Well, I'd always been writing. I have a degree in it, but I wasn't brought up on comics. I was always a big reader, but wasn't brought up on comics. So, but I was really into kind of the comic book related or adapted media. So like the first thing I remember being super into that was comic book related is Smallville. I was super into that show. I just did a rewatch. It's real cringe. in a very
young David.
in a very satisfying sort of way.
Oh man.
And so fast forward to about 5 odd years ago, some colleagues of mine got very tired of me talking about stuff without having read the source material, and so they started shoving books in my hands. The first one was Batwoman Elegy, I believe, and that completely captured my imagination, and you probably see some of the like threads of that weave into Death Drop. From there, I have somewhat of an obsessive personality, so once I get really into something, I want to know how it works and be able to do it. And so I started writing comics. Death Drop was kind of the first thing that I wrote. And so coming back to it has been a bit of a surreal experience. But in 2019, I entered Mad Cave's talent search, mostly on a whim. I almost forgot to enter.
This story stresses me out.
I know how much you love this story. It's of me waking up at 3 a.m. Realizing that I hadn't sent the submission in and sending it in then.
Oh dear.
Well, I'm
man.
glad I did
Yeah.
because I won. From that, I got to do Nottingham. And we're still doing Nottingham, and it's a blast, and it's been surprisingly well received, and that's not to say that I don't have faith in the book, because I do, but I think we were just pretty floored by the response to it, and now I'm getting to make a lot of comics, and it's really pretty great.
That's so awesome.
That's unbelievable. Actually, that kind of leads into we wanted to just bring up our contest again. We're doing something very similar to help find a new writer. So your story actually flows perfectly into that. You mind if we just do a little talk about our contest for a second?
Plug away.
All right, Ben, you want to give kind of the update on where we're at with it?
Yeah. So just as a reminder to everybody, we have our comic script writing contest with, we are sponsoring. The contest is through Dream Foundry. They're a nonprofit, and they have contests for all sorts of different speculative fiction writers. So we came to them with the idea for a comic book script contest, and they jumped on board. Right now, we are excited to talk about in fact, now I gotta pull it up. Our celebrity judges that we got for the show or for the contest. So when you submit a script submissions will be in September, and you can submit all month long. It'll be, and we'll have more about the rules as we get closer. But we have our 3 celebrity judges who will judge the semifinalists. So those judges will be Mike Diodato Jr., Mark Guggenheim, and we just talked about them a few minutes ago, Sarah Gailey. So those 3 will be our celebrity judges.
That's a stacked panel.
We're pretty excited. We're pretty excited.
Yeah.
They all agreed to jump on board. So the first batch will come through. Us squares, me, Shane, Paul, and Mike will go through and vet those, and then submit 10 semifinalists over to the judges, and they'll select our top 3 winners. We have prizes coming from Global Comics. We have Kickstarter also is pitching in. ASAP Imagination, which is a UK-based comic book publisher. And we have a few other things, irons in the fire with a few other folks who we're talking to. Those we'll find out closer to the contest start date. But that's where we're at with the contest right now. Obviously, the big thing is we have cash prizes. So it's $1,000, $500, and $200. This is because Dream Foundry is a nonprofit. We do have a donation fund set up with them. So if anybody wants to donate, they can donate there, and we'll have the links in the show notes and stuff. But that'll all go, 100% of it goes to the prize fund. Sorry, so that's our little pitch. Thanks for letting us.
Yeah, sorry.
Awesome.
I just thought
Sounds great.
I just thought it was a nice segue into, you got your start from a contest, and so we're trying to do the same thing and help somebody out and bring new voices into the art, and we're excited about it. We're really excited about it.
I absolutely and wholeheartedly support that. Naturally, yeah, it was an interesting experience. The Mad Cave talent search, and by the way, not to plug another another contest, but that's also going on. And I've had this kind of weird full circle situation where the 2021 crop of Mad Cave winners all did Nottingham short stories in a series called Tales from Nottingham. Each of them were 20-page. They'd got their own 20-page one-shot, which is an issue of Tales from Nottingham. And I've been helping guide them story-wise, and it's been a really, really interesting and fun experience. Getting to kind of pay that forward a little bit, and also just giving back is awesome.
Yes.
Like, I feel like
Yeah.
apart from the sort of recalcitrant parts of this community, it's really great and positive and supportive, and it's a joy to be a part of.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Yeah, and that's why we do this show, is to give back. Comics have been a huge part of my life growing up. That's some of my earliest memories are sitting alone in my room reading comics. So, yep, absolutely. Well, this was absolutely a pleasure. It's so nice getting to meet both of you, and thank you so much for sharing this book. It was phenomenal. I hope that people listen to this and seek it out. It's oftentimes hard to find new and interesting stories in this this art medium, and this is definitely one of those. So thank you again for sharing that with us.
And before we wrap, though, can you guys tell people a little bit like where they can get it, when these issues are dropping and all that, and then we'll make sure all that's in the show notes as well.
Sure. So you can order Death Drop Drag Assassin from your local comic book store. It is out June 14th, smack bang in the middle of Pride Month. So number one is out then. It's also available on Scout Comics web store, and has a brilliant Scout Comics web store exclusive cover by Alex as well. Yeah, basically your comic shop, online comic book digital publishers, and Scout's web store.
Awesome. And then you can find, to all the viewers and listeners, you can find both Alex and David on social as well, and we'll have those links on there. Alex is they're always on Twitter, so you can probably hit them. I'm just kidding, Alex.
That was me disappearing off to get my phone to tweet.
Nice. Very cool. Well, thank you again. We really appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks again for tuning in. This was another fantastic episode. We love bringing new interesting art to you. So please hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so we can keep bringing you content like this. And we'll see you on the next one.